Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's one thing for me to criticize modern Hollywood, but when one of their own speaks out, it's a different thing altogether. A shift is definitely happening, and all I can say is, I hope audiences respond accordingly, because that's the only way to send a message that we want filmmakers like Fede Alverez to get more opportunities in the future. Because quite literally, he gets it. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Now, I know that some of you aren't as optimistic about Alien Romulus as I am. And I get it, you have every right to feel that way. Modern Hollywood has set a bad precedence when it comes to revisiting these legacy franchises. So that's why I would say that I'm cautiously optimistic about this film. I like a lot of what I've seen in the trailers, and I like a lot of the things that the people involved have said about the project.
It fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
Could it be misdirection? Could it be another bait and switch? Could it be all bullshit? Could it be more empty promises that ultimately make us feel frustrated with the final product? Absolutely. But right now, if we are taking things at face value, and we take into consideration that Fede Alverez himself has not given me a reason to not want to give him the benefit of the doubt, he is quite literally saying all the right things right now. You guys know what I like and do not like about movies at this point if you've been around for long enough. And you also know that I am very fair and most times brutally honest with my criticisms. And one thing that has remained consistent about my criticisms of modern films is the use of CGI.
That's right, it stinks!
Something that was once used to enhance a film when it was done right. But now it is used as nothing more than a crutch by lazy studios who want to get films out in the quickest and easiest way possible. I don't mean to always single out the MCU, but let's face it, they are the biggest perpetrators of overusing poor CGI. And the worst part is, it's not because they are not capable of doing better. It's because their bottom line, their deadlines, are more important than giving VFX workers the appropriate amount of time to do their job properly. And just so you know, I'm not just picking on the MCU here. Look no further than the last Alien film, Alien Covenant, for more proof. Now, Alien Covenant is a movie that I feel like is overhated at this point, but that's a subject I'll get into in a later video. That being said, just because I found enjoyment in it more than some other people, does not mean that I do not recognize that it has its faults.
Whoopie fucking do. Hey, I'm impressed.
And one of its biggest problems, and I said this when it came out, is that they showed the xenomorph too much and they used CGI to do it. To me, the practical effects work that we saw in films like Alien and Aliens will always be infinitely more effective than the CGI creature we saw in Alien Covenant. Practical effects, even bad ones, tend to age better than CGI, and I'm willing to die on that hill. And apparently, much to my delight, I'm not the only one who feels that way. Even people in Hollywood are starting to take notice and make some changes. So Fede Alverez, the director of the upcoming Alien Romulus, says he had one major rule when on set, saying, quote, "If it can be done practical, it will be done practical." He goes on to say, "The special effects movies used to provoke a reaction of wow. I can't believe I'm seeing this." And it seems like some movies have given up for the most part. I couldn't have said it better myself. Special effects event films have all but given up when it comes to using CGI in the most effective way possible. You still have films like the Dune series that do it the right way, most likely because they have a competent creative overseeing it all. But unfortunately, we get more Love and Thunders than we do Dunes, and that's a real problem. And I do believe that laziness is at the core of the problem. More specifically, a lack of attention to detail and not knowing when enough is enough. If you will humor me for a moment, I want to take you all the way back to a little film called Jurassic Park. A spectacle in every sense of the word. Now, this movie does get brought up a lot in these conversations, and rightfully so. That being said, it is a perfect example of how to use practical and CGI effects in a way that complement each other. You see, Steven Spielberg understands filmmaking. Steven Spielberg understood the technology. He did things in that movie where both forms of effects were used to enhance the overall experience. He used practical effects in scenes where he could, and it still looks great to this day. And he used CGI in scenes that were once considered impossible unless you were doing them in stop motion. And that was the key to it all. At the time, CGI was innovative. It was new. It was fresh. It was unique. It was exciting because it gave filmmakers a new outlet to tell stories that they normally wouldn't be able to tell. Do you know that between T2 and Jurassic Park, that they are probably two of the most influential films in cinematic history when it comes to their use of CGI? Other filmmakers and audiences saw those two films and realized that the next evolution of cinema was upon us.
It's true.
These movies left people like myself in awe the first time we watched them. And the key, ladies and gentlemen, is that they used CGI sparingly, meaning only when necessary. And again, they gave the effects team time to do it right. Doing a handful of scenes as opposed to a whole movie was probably beneficial to everyone. Now, we've had movies with bad CGI for a long time now. This is not a new occurrence. But the problem with modern cinema is that they rely on CGI too heavily. Doing completely ridiculous things like recreating a real bridge location in CGI when they could have very easily shot on location in films like Spider-Man No Way Home. I get it, it's cheaper and easier in some ways to not shoot on location. But ask yourselves, what's going to look better? What's going to make your film stand the test of time and not feel dated in a few years? Sometimes showing some restraint is a good thing. I think Dr. Ian Malcolm said it best.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Bottom line, practical magic is necessary in films right now, because CGI tends to ruin films more than it enhances it. Fede Alverez is correct. Seeing special effects in a film in any form should make the audience say wow, rather than make us laugh hysterically in reaction to how bad they are. Special effects in any form should be used to bring things to life that had previously been considered impossible. What do I say I want more than anything when I'm watching a new film? I want them to show me something that I've never seen before. And to do it in a way where I can get lost in the moment and not be taken out of the film. Fede Alverez is using practical sets. He is using practical face huggers. He is using practical xenomorphs. Regardless of how this film ultimately turns out overall, it will always have those things going for it. And all it took was a director to understand that movies are in desperate need of a back-to-basics approach, especially when it comes to the use of special effects. Can we stop with the film bro nonsense? There's nothing wrong with CGI. The majority of the time, it looks good, and you don't even notice it. Please educate yourselves and stop being so stuck in the past. We all know that this movie is still going to have CGI, and you will ultimately all hate it.
Well, I know I'm gonna hate it because I hate everything. All this is someone in Hollyweird telling you exactly what you want to hear, and you're falling for it hook, line, and sinker. I can't wait until the real hero of this story ends up being a CGI lesbian android who's fighting for equal rights. They're probably going to have a scene where the facehugger gets canceled because he didn't ask for consent first. Bottom line, stop supporting this nonsense and just make angry videos about it, just like me.
Y'all be cool. Right on.